It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. Nielsen and Gazzola back with you once again. The first episode since the elimination of the Edmonton Oilers to the Golden Knights in game number 6. As always, The Oil Stream brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. Huge shout out to Furby and the crew over at Popeye's for being on board once again with The Oil Stream this past season. It's the home of the delicious Popeye's chicken sandwich, the juicy nugs, available DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, and a whole lot more. Tommy, how you doing today, buddy?
Hi, Dusty. I'm doing great. I mean, it's bittersweet. Like, now there's a little bit of a respite in terms of scheduling and stuff, but I would rather be talking about what happened in Game 7. I really wish that we were talking about that. It sucks that the playoffs are over. I love covering them. It's this different vibe and energy. The city is alive, and here we are. And you know what? They're going to regroup, and next year we'll see what happens. They have a good team. They're in a good position, but yeah, it's bittersweet. Like,
it's
I'm
so
excited.
Strange. It's so strange.
Yeah,
I just thought that, and this is nothing against Vegas. Vegas probably viewed it the same way. Like, I think both of these teams, 1 and 2 in the conference, both teams expected, I think both their fan bases, and to be honest with you, I mean, most of the media in both markets expected to be talking at least about a third round matchup against Dallas, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So kudos to the Golden Knights. 4 times in 6 years, they've got to the conference final. There's a reason why. And, when we were doing the Smash Hit Nielsen show together this morning.
Yep. Huge smash hit.
Huge. Shout out to the AM Nasties. I stayed on after and I listened to, you read a couple of texts and this and that, and people talking about the failure of the team and all of that. And let's remind people, Vegas didn't make the playoffs last year. I know they had a ton of injuries. Dallas lost in the first round to the Calgary Flames. You're in the window. Yes, you misfired with one of the bullets in the chamber this year, and you reload and you fire away again next year. But it is disheartening. I know for the fan base, I understand it, the buildup. But ultimately, the team is in a very good spot, and I know the wound is fresh, but I think this time next year we're going to be talking about the third round. I feel like that's probably the case.
Yeah, and other teams will be improved, but the Edmonton Oilers are going to make some improvements here along the way as well. Tommy, I've asked this a bunch of people, and we'll get to Ken Holland and Jay Woodcroft, obviously their year-end availabilities today. Talk a little bit about the Steve Staios rumors and where that might be headed. Plus, I asked her some questions today. Of course, we got a bunch of great questions. We'll get to that. So we'll get to the Boston Pizza Appetizer in just 1 second. But for you, Tommy, what's the one thing, and there's a few things, obviously. Discipline was an issue. Attention to detail defensively wasn't great. Obviously, the goaltending will need to be better. But what do you think is the key lesson to be learned here for the Edmonton Oilers coming out of this loss and early exit to the Golden Knights?
It is execution, attention to detail, defensive zone. Those were issues in the season early on that we had to talk about a lot, and they shot themselves in the foot. I think we used that term ad nauseum in the first couple of months of the year, and then they started to turn things around. They cleaned up their game. But the Vegas Golden Knights picked up on something, and they were able to expose those deficiencies, because even though the Oilers were much better in that area of their game as a whole, it wasn't perfect. Penalty kill was another part of their game that had problems and did in the postseason. So I think that is honestly where they're going to need to be better. And, you talked about the press conference today. Jay Woodcroft talked about it. Ken Holland talked about it. You got the players, you got the bodies, and there are going to be a few tweaks. There are going to be some upgrades, if you will. But ultimately, it comes down to the desire to execute on both sides of the puck properly. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the Oilers got exposed to a certain degree, and there were those moments in that series against Vegas. I still truly believe the series was lost in that second period in Game 5, where they had that sequence where they the bad penalty call against Broberg, and then the high stick by Janmark, couldn't kill a 5-on-3, boom, 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 game over. And I think that was the defining moment of the series for the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, it's I was texting with, our buddy Eddie from TSN, producer. He texted me, he's a hardcore Oilers fan, just loves the Oil. And he texted me after, he goes, you know what? tough pill to swallow. He goes, but this is just a team that needs to mature. Like they need to handle themselves better. Like the Ekholm penalty that he took, like that cross check, like that was just a bad penalty. It was a stupid penalty to take at that time. The failure to commit defensively as much as you needed to, that's something that will sting a little bit more after a loss like this. Just in general, Stuart Skinner between the pipes need to mature. I don't know what ends up happening with Broberg, but like Broberg and McLeod and some of these guys just, they just, I think Draisaitl and McDavid, and this is something that I think we've seen the transition of over the last few years as leaders, Tommy, they've matured. And I think Draisaitl still, I didn't like him pretending to two-hand Pietrangelo a couple of times. I think it kind of just showed Pietrangelo that you were in his head. Like, mission accomplished. You rattled Leon Draisaitl. So, I mean, there's a little element of that here or there, but I feel like, overall as a team, there's just some moments that as they get more mature in their NHL careers and as a team and finding ways to win, they'll handle those moments better. Like the Game 5 collapse, right? They'll handle that situation better, right? And they've been there, they've had that experience now, and you kind of check that box off next time around.
Yep. And I'll cap it off with this in regard to that sequence in Game 5 in the second period there. It was deflating for the Oilers. It hurt them, but I don't think it crushed their will to win at all. I think that they had a lot of fight left in them. But what I do think that sequence did do was for the Golden Knights, it was we got you. We know how to handle and solve whatever you're throwing at us. We got you. Aha. That was the moment. And I think that's where the series really shifted.
All right, Ken Holland spoke first today. Jay Woodcroft would speak after. The Ken Holland banana joke, followed by I made a joke. I was just like, God, you are a guy who's got 9 grandkids. Like, it's just that simple. But I did see some people on Twitter. Usually when Ken Holland has a press conference, a lot of people go, Ken Holland. I think people kind of liked what he had to say today, Tommy. Like he's kind of got that same sort of dog mentality as the rest of the group right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, Rob Tychkowski pointed out that Ken Holland used the word devastated. I think he broke Allen Iverson's record. That's what Titch said. And I started laughing. I was like, yeah, this sounds like he's devastated and how hard it is. But when he made that banana joke, I was like, oh, that sounds like Master Splinter in the original Ninja Turtles movie going, I made a funny. Yes, that's what I thought about. Like for all of the 30-plus people that remember that.
I made a funny. Oh, that is what it was like. God, that's so good.
That's what it was. Like,
yeah.
But he was very forthcoming and honest, and that was appreciated. And maybe the tone and the way people took to what Ken Holland said today was a little bit different than the usual press conferences that we've seen, is because it sounds like he's emptying the tank. And he was pretty upfront about what his game plan is going forward in his career. And the banana joke plays into that. But he's emptying the tank, and he talked about unfinished business, and he talked about what his plan going forward. He didn't shy away, or he was not ambiguous about what he plans to do and who he intends to kind of develop or lay the groundwork for moving forward. And I know we're going to get into that. So I think that was appreciated, and probably why. And then people probably, the ones who, have taken a step back, exhaled, dusted themselves off after the loss, said and realized, yes, they're in a good place. He has set them up to have success, and they recognize that. So that's probably part of why the tone was a bit different from the fan base on social media.
Okay, there's been it was Frank Saravalli who had first talking about with Gregor over on one of the DFO podcasts. That's the eventual plan to get to Steve Staios. Tommy, Ken Holland said today that it doesn't look like he's going to be turning over the keys to the franchise here in the next 12 months or so. So what is the plan, and where does this speculation come from, and how does it actually tie into what could end up happening?
Frank, obviously a wealth of knowledge. He's dialed right in. Gregor is good too. Obviously very good. Those two are a great combination. Friends and great peers and colleagues. Have a ton of respect for both of those guys. So they're right. I was told a while ago when Steve Staios was brought on, like, keep an eye on Steve and watch his role expand. And I was told a few weeks ago, hey, he's going to start climbing the ladder right away here. He's not just going to be an advisor or player development. So this is a guy to look out for. And then that's why we brought him on Hello Hockey a couple of weeks ago, because we know that the plan is for him to take on a bigger role in the organization. So what we saw today is Ken Holland, basically say, I'm going to probably give him more duties next year. This is something I hinted at or speculated on this morning on the Nielsen show, is like he'll probably take on some more GM duties, and his name or title might stay the same. And Ken Holland basically outlined that today. So their intention is for him to take on a bigger role. And eventually it could be as GM when Ken Holland is done. Maybe it's president of hockey operations. We shall see. Now, having discussions with people in the organization, I was reminded of a few things today. The owner has a big say in this. He has to give it his blessing. The news that he's going to take over as GM created a stir within hockey ops, because even though they understand that is a scenario that has a really good chance of playing out, they're just like, what do you mean, like right away? Hang on a second. So it created a stir that way. And then there's some outside factors as well. And I was told that, keep an eye on what happens with Ottawa and whoever wins the bid to buy the team there, because there is a deep connection with Steve Staios, with one of the investors
from Hamilton.
And that could throw a wrench into the plans. Not to say that it will or it's definitive, but it's just like, hey, by the way, you should know, before we get to Steve Staios, GM, president of hockey operations of the Edmonton Oilers, there are some other things that could potentially happen. Keep an eye on this. So it is going down that path. Ken Holland acknowledged that. I've been told, watch Steve. He's going to be climbing the ladder. That's why we brought him on Hello Hockey. And he's put in the work to learn the process of becoming a hockey executive. He had a lot of success with the Hamilton Bulldogs. I asked him about what he learned, how his definition of a team, what a success in a franchise looks like to him, and the new wave of hockey player compared to the type of hockey players he played with at the end of his career, certainly compared to the type of hockey players at the beginning of his career that he played with and against. So it's very interesting. And he's a smart guy. He's well-spoken, obviously. He's learned a lot from his playing days to now, and he sounds like he's going to continue to learn on the job. So on the radar, absolutely, probably the front runner. But, before we get to that finish line, there might be some other things that happen, but it sounds like the intention is for him to grow and develop it to a bigger, more prominent role, potentially GM and president.
Sounds like he checks off a lot of boxes, and as long as he gets that final approval from Stoff, it could be a full move forward here, right? Like,
I mean, that is the final stamp.
I mean, the gatekeeper has to take care of business here, I think. So,
yeah.
We'll see what happens on that front.
See, Bob has been buzzing the tower around Steve in the press box quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, nothing like a Stoff buzz the tower. Hey? Like,
we all have, though, right? Like, I think we all started sniffing around. Yeah,
that's too funny.
We love Stoff.
Well, of course, yeah, Stoff, huge oil stream guy. Yeah, we're big Stoff guys. So, yeah,
it's a two-way street, brother.
As the two longest-serving voices of University of Alberta Golden Bears, Stoff and I are basically we're blood brothers. I mean, that's just how it is.
Do longtime Golden Bears / Oilers fans show up and kiss the ring when you show up at Claire Drake Arena like they do to Stoff? I was just blown away. I'm watching like 70-year-old dudes coming up to the Bob Father. I'm watching like 25-year-old guys coming up to the Bob Father.
They love him.
And they're like kissing the ring. I'm like, am I in a mafia movie? Like, what is this?
I mean, if it wasn't for Claire Drake, it would be named after Stoff.
I got a quick surprise for our viewers.
What is this?
Get over here. You don't have to take off your shoes. Look at this.
Who is this guy? What is it?
Look at this.
Gene Principe, my God. One of my all-time favorites. Hello, Gino. Yeah, that's Gino.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, buddy.
Parmesan. I just wanted to balance the Italian factor. North, south, north, south. Just to clarify, in case anyone was wondering.
What a guy, eh?
Gino's the best.
I love it. Dustin?
Yeah, I got nothing. That's great. Man,
That's
Gene
my Uncle
Principe
Gene.
sitting here in the Ulster. Yeah, that's good.
I mean to bug you guys. Keep up the great work in the morning. and enjoy Oil Stream and everything else. You guys are doing great, especially as the season concludes. Fans love to hear from you.
That's
Okay,
our
your
guy.
suits are
There you go.
delivered. Okay, I'll get your lunch within about half an hour.
Thanks,
See you later,
Paisan.
boys. Take care.
Oh, what a
Thanks,
beauty,
Gino.
man. Gene's just the best. He's the best. And now
the
Gino
best.
gets to go chill for a bit, right? Like Gino
Well,
gets
he's
to
already
relax.
Look
Yeah,
at you. You're
yeah,
gonna go
that's a
sit
good
outside
point.
in the backyard, aren't you?
Yeah, he is.
He says, "I gotta go. I gotta go
Yeah,
sit in the backyard, work on
of
that
course
tab."
he does.
Ciao, Paisan.
What a nice
Yeah.
appearance here on the
Best
oil
guy.
stream. Gene Principe, my God, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with Gino. All right, Tommy. Hey, Jay Woodcroft. Let's just quickly hit on Woodcroft. Woodcroft, obviously a very well-spoken, highly intelligent man. Did he give you anything of significance today? I watched about the first 3 quarters of it before we hopped on here with the oil stream.
He was good. I just recognized the deficiencies, areas of growth, things that we and everybody saw, and he said, yeah, like that's where we need to get better. And I do like some of the one thing that stood out to me that I did appreciate him saying is, there's no finger pointing. All of us together need to work it out and figure out and attack those areas of improvement. Us as coaches, he said there were times where he second guessed what he did. I'm sure there's instances that our viewers and listeners would be like, well, that time he didn't call a timeout. That time he started so-and-so. And he's like, yeah, like if I could go back, I'd do it differently. And that's a good recognition for a guy that has a lot of confidence in his ability and has had a lot of success. Still, modesty and a touch of humility to be like, I need to be better there. And we're all working on it. Nobody's pointing fingers. Nobody was perfect. And I think if you really want to elevate and ascend to championship caliber, you need to have that attitude. So I like that. And I think he was sincere in saying that, knowing Jay.
All right, let's get into your Boston Pizza appetizer here. Nielsen and Gazzola with you on the oil stream, brought to you by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. Appy hour daily from 2 to 5, and then again from 9 until close at all of your Boston Pizza locations. Of course, the patios are open. You're outside. You're chilling. You're living your best life. Cactus cuts on the patio with a couple of bevies. You can't go wrong. And you can join us next Tuesday. We're going to be at the Clairview Boston Pizza location at 3 o'clock. They're putting us smack dab in the middle of Appy hour, which I'm very excited about. So I know they're excited for us to come there. I wish we were going there and still talking about what's going on in round 3 in the conference finals, but there's obvious, how it is in this market, Tommy. Some of the best numbers we do are in the off season with the oil stream. So there's no shortage of things to discuss. So make plans to join us 3 o'clock next Tuesday. That would be Tuesday, the 23rd at 3 o'clock at the Boston Pizza over in Clairview. Tommy, we'll have the whole offseason to dive into this player and that player. And we'll get to some of your questions coming up here in this episode of the Oil Stream. So feel free to throw them into the live chat, whether on YouTube or Twitter or wherever. What do you think is priority number 1 for Ken Holland this offseason? What jumps out to the top of the list in your opinion?
Yeah, probably getting a Bouchard deal done at a modest rate. Like, the guy's going to get paid. He's going to make big money. I mean, you don't want to go through the same issue you did with Darnell Nurse. So I think they want to probably get him signed up on a fair AAV for a longer term and not do a bridge. And then all of a sudden, maybe Bouchard pops off for 70-point seasons or something ridiculous.
I would be pegging him for at least 70 points next year.
Yeah. So
like on that power play, man, he's definitely gonna be over 60, and I think he'll be over 70.
Yeah, so you want to find that right AAV at a good term that works both ways, and then I think it'll be the nitpicking at the little things and the small improvements. Pardon me, where the roster needs to get better because it's very good. It's not perfect, and I think that a couple of UFAs might walk for more money. I like Nick Bjugstad, but does he want to stick around for a reasonable rate after a really good season on a crappy Arizona team that might not be in Arizona
Man,
much
he'd be
longer?
great to keep around, man. He'd be a real nice keep. Yeah.
Do you want to keep Matthias Janmark? What is Matthias Janmark looking for as a UFA? And then you got to get Ryan McLeod done as well. Then you have to identify, what is the role of Dylan Holloway? Do you upgrade the right side? I think they are going to try to look for a bigger, stronger winger instead of Kyler Yamamoto. I think that's on the table. So there are those fine tuning type of situations that need to occur. So it's not a monster overhaul. It's not big fish hunting. I don't think this offseason. It's just tying up loose ends and making sure you get that Bouchard deal done and make it one that is not too crazy.
Yeah, Yamamoto's an interesting one. I know Gregor wrote about possibly just buying him out if, like, worst case scenario, if you can't find a taker for him, right?
Worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, that would be worst case scenario. It is interesting though. I didn't want to get into this during the playoffs, but I was told that prior to the deadline, when they were kind of still working on the Jacob Chikrin thing, like before they ended up getting to Ekholm, in that they were trying. I think what they were trying to do was possibly move both Jesse Puljujarvi and Kyler Yamamoto. And the Coyotes, what I was told was we're sitting there waiting. They said, well, Ken Holland said, I'll try to move Jesse Puljujarvi, and then Yamamoto could maybe go the other way in this deal, in a Chikrin deal. And in the end, the Coyotes eventually moved Jesse Puljujarvi, and then the Coyotes eventually said, well, no, we don't want the Yamamoto contract next year. Right. And then eventually, and it led to a great deal for Ekholm anyway. So in the end, it's the best. But I am curious, like, what the level of interest is in Kyler Yamamoto. Like, what type of... Like, are you getting something for him, Tommy? Or because where is it? Somebody asked one of the questions, Dusty. Here it is. Who says no to Nashville? Kyler Yamamoto. To Edmonton? Dante Fabro. I think I know who says no in that situation. Like, you're not getting a right shot D-man in exchange for Kyler Yamamoto. No. So I think that's I don't know if it gets to the point where it's a buyout, but I also don't know what you like. I don't think you're getting anything to help your current roster by moving Kyler Yamamoto.
I wouldn't give up hope on that. Like, personally, I would think that you could still get a player for Kyler Yamamoto.
You think like a bottom six forward, maybe? Because that's what he is. I mean, that's what he's going to be.
Listen, healthy and playing with the right guys, he can get you 40 points. He can get you 15 to 20 goals. He's going to get better because he is still a young player. And is he going to get thicker? Maybe a little bit, but he's not going to be like a stocky Braden Point, Marty St. Louis, who were the same height, just his body type is slight. And, I think that there might be an appetite, or there will be more of an appetite for Kyler Yamamoto than there was for Jesse Puljujarvi. I think that there is more value in Kyler Yamamoto. And there are some people, other fans are like, that's garbage. No, that's not true. Yes, people believe that. They see the little things in his game, his effectiveness compared to Jesse Puljujarvi's ineffectiveness, that would give him value.
I don't know how many people are sitting there going, I'm going to bring in a $3 million 5'7" guy. I think
they're not looking at the 5'7", Dusty.
I think at the contract, or 5'6", but
they're not looking at that. They're looking at, like, okay, what does he do on the ice? Why? They would be asking, like, why does McDavid and Draisaitl not mind playing with this guy, even though he's itty bitty? Like, he does things that are valued, and he at times creates turnovers, and he kills penalties, and he does have some value. We take off those Oiler glasses, and you go, okay, what does he really do? Well, he does kill penalties, plays 14, 15 minutes a night. He has some offense. He's small. He gets hurt, but, like,
that's pretty important. Like, he's small and gets hurt.
It's so subjective with him, but he, I think, does.
So you think warm body back in return?
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, aim high and then, see what happens. And the Oilers certainly tried to do that with Jesse Puljujarvi, but
I guess you gotta aim high, I guess. We'll see. I've said it on my show for like 3, 4, 5 years. The Oilers are not winning the Stanley Cup if Kyler Yamamoto's in their top 6. They just aren't. So they have to move on from him. And the problem for Kyler now is that I think they have people better on the third line than what he could provide there. So, I mean, it's almost an odd man out. Like, for this lineup, he's a tweener for me right now, which is, you have to upgrade that spot.
Yes.
So, we'll see what happens.
There could be a team out there that says, we like that guy. We have a spot for him. He plays a certain style that we value, and we can utilize him in that regard.
What would you guess the draft pick value would be if he was just traded for a pick?
Third rounder,
maybe third rounder. Yeah.
third rounder.
Yeah, depending on the need at the time for a team.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a couple of things. We'll get to a bunch more of the offseason stuff, and we'll talk about Yamamoto a bunch more times. Who knows? Maybe he's back next year as well. But I did say we wanted to get to a few questions today, and there was a bunch of them, and we'll dive into these right now. And as always, especially in the offseason, we'll have lots of time for your questions. So we won't be able to get to all of them right now, but we'll certainly get to a few of them. Let's go. Oh, this one, just quickly. You would maybe know this. Is there a reason why Nuge didn't speak yesterday? Most veteran Oiler, MIA, is interesting to this guy. That was JJ on Twitter. Did they basically just say there's 6 guys, you guys pick them? Like, was the senior media leadership group laid it out? Like,
yeah, the media.
Yeah.
The senior media, whatever the hell.
Yeah. They kind of gave the six guys and.
Yeah.
Okay.
There. I'm supposed to be in that group chat, but somebody continues to forget to put me in there.
I just thought Nuge and Nurse, I mean, the other 2 core guys, right? Probably would have been.
Well, there's no Darnell either. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so
Hyman
was great. Hyman was great.
Ekholm.
Yeah,
Kane went out there. Ekholm was fantastic, and Stuart Skinner was great. I mean, that story about his stick that he kept from the broken stick.
That was interesting. Yeah,
it was a good nugget from Tony Barta to get Stuart Skinner to talk about that. Like, there's so many guys in that room that you could listen to or have speak. And you know what? Not to make it turn into a 2-hour session, they just kept 6, and I think they were good with that.
All right, this one comes in from Shane. He says, I live near Houston and watch your stream/pods all the time down here. Do I get my tickets now for the Coyotes to move to Houston and play my Oilers? Or do I?
I'll tell you this.
ESPN just said, I think Wyshynski just said, ESPN confirmed they're going to stay at Mullet Arena next year. So
yeah, not surprising, but that move, it takes time. I know that the Jets moved hastily, but they're going to do it. They're going to try to do it right. So I have a quick story about that. I remember talking to a Coyotes player that is from the Edmonton area that was buddies with my buddies, lots of MLAC dudes. And when he was a Coyote in like 2014-ish, I remember just having a quick chat with him at the old arena. And he's like, man, guys don't want to come here because we don't know what the hell's going on with ownership. We think that we're all moving probably to Houston. And
back then, that long ago, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but that was the time where like there was already starting to be rumblings about Vegas, and Quebec City was getting that new arena. So the one that Kansas City might be another city that pops up again. And then fast forward 6 years later, it's like 2019, and I'm talking to a guy on the Coyotes that year in 2019, and I was like, dude, what the hell is going on with the team? You got new owners. This arena thing is weird. City of Glendale. And he's like, man, we're moving to Houston. Like, okay. he was since traded, but he's just like, we all know we're moving to Houston. Like, we're a lame duck franchise. And I've jokingly called it a hockey wasteland, and it has become a hockey wasteland. And that referendum yesterday was, I think, the final nail in the coffin. And Matt Cassian played for the Houston Aeros. I covered games there. It is NHL ready. They're talking about a new arena as well in Houston. So it's such an easy transition. But the Atlanta thing, I know Atlanta's come up again recently.
I saw their name on the list. Yeah, I was like,
what?
what?
Put it out there. They would want another new arena. I know Todd Nelson told me that there's an area called Gwinnett. It's really a really nice area. That
I think is there a baseball team that plays there? Somebody plays in Gwinnett. I've heard that name before.
And Nelly told me about it, and he's like, that would be, they put the arena in the wrong area when they built it downtown. If it was in Gwinnett, they would have good support. But this is a city that has already had 2 NHL franchises. One is the Flames, one is the Jets now. Like,
yeah, you can't go 0 for
maybe
3,
that's
buddy.
the next Quebec City. I'm just joking, but and then the Atlanta, and then the Houston thing. Kansas City is the last one that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some rumblings about Kansas City coming up now.
Let's ask a question from Jay here. Out of Ryan, Janmark, and Bugstad, who is a must to bring back if they can't bring all 3 back, who would be number 1 priority there? Would it be Derek Ryan or Nick Bugstad?
I would say Nick Bugstad. He's younger.
I think so too.
He's more effective.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. Derek Ryan gives you everything he's got.
Derek Ryan very rarely makes a mistake, Tommy.
Yeah. No,
right? Like,
it's very true.
yeah.
I just think Derek Ryan at 36, not the biggest guy. That probably is playing against him, but I think Derek Ryan's in the National Hockey League next year. I don't know if it's in Edmonton or somewhere else, but I think he did enough to
Well,
get
he'll
another
serve a
contract.
purpose. Yeah, he'll
Yep.
serve a purpose somewhere. I want to go back to Shane. He had that other question. It was a two-parter. With Raphael Lavoie and Holloway coming up, it's most likely Yamamoto will be gone. Will they also move on from CC on the right side? Let's save CC for a different episode. We'll talk about the blue line on a different episode. And we know they're going to want to factor Holloway in. Does Lavoie push for a spot on the team next year?
I think he does. I think he gets
Can
a
he
look
be a
at some
bottom
point.
6 guy? He's not going to be a top 6 guy, right? Not
I
next year.
I don't know if he like outright makes the team or if he's like the first call up. You know what I mean? Like he was hurt, then he had a really strong finish to the season. He was up as a black ace. He's a big dude. And if he's starting to figure it out at the NHL level, or pardon me, at the pro level, I think that we do see him in games next season. I don't know if he outright makes it. I think that Oilers, my understanding or my feel towards how they go about handling the right side and improving it is probably somewhere else in the NHL. They go find a guy that's either a free agent or a guy that they target, and that's probably plan A. And then somehow, like they've done with prospects recently, like they did with McLeod, like they've done with Holloway, work them in, massage them in, and not just thrust them in. I think that's probably how they would go about handling Lavoie. But he's a big dude. He had a good finish to the season, and I think he's going to be in Oilers colors at some point next year.
All right. Before we wrap, we'll get to inside the numbers for Cool Bet. If we didn't get your questions today, we got 2 episodes a week through the entire offseason into the summer. So we got lots of time to discuss everything. If you've been watching today or listening to the podcast, if you wouldn't mind giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, that would be terrific as well. Inside the numbers for Cool Bet. Hey, if you still want to bet on the NHL playoffs, the big PGA championship, we just banged out a lock shop on that. You can get all of that over at coolbet.com. We're on the Oil Stream here on the Nielsen Media Cool Bet Network. Tommy, over or under 110.5 points in the regular season for the Edmonton Oilers next year?
I'll go over. And I know this is fresh. I'll reiterate.
No,
that,
but a full year of Ekholm, buddy, and Holland's tweaking a little bit. Like
better goaltending. I think both
you would
guys
hope.
want to be better. Yeah, more consistency there. If this team is that devastated, as Ken Holland said about 433 times in the press conference, then they're going to be hungry for next year. And I think that'll lead to them having an outstanding season. So I'll take the over at this point, May 17th, 2023. Next year is going to be a monster year in the regular season.
Yeah, I do think, who was I talking to? I had somebody on my show this week. I think it was Wyshynski, who did pick the Oilers to win the Cup, said he might probably pick them again next year. But I think they could be a regular season juggernaut next year. I think they can be 116, 117, 118 points, and then none of it really matters until they get it done in the postseason. But they got to have a better first half. Then you don't have to put all your energy in the second half to try to catch the teams ahead of you in the standings. Right. I think that'll end up going a long way for them. But as inside the numbers for CoolBet, coolbet.com, over under 110.5 points for the Oilers next year. Both of us are on the over. We will have another episode later in the week, and there's lots of things to discuss. We'll break things down. Eventually, come summertime, we'll have the rankings of importance, like in August, leading back into the season. That's always a good time. So
I'll still hear about Kyler Yamamoto behind Josh Archibald.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's true. Well, now look at it. Now look at it. So
right, like it was one place behind, and I said Yamamoto could probably bump himself ahead of Archibald.
That was years ago too. That was not
before we found out Archibald didn't want to get vaccinated. Wasn't going to be there. Like, it was like, you guys, relax.
As always, the Oil Stream brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. And like we said, a ton of off-season content coming your way. So when others stop talking about the Oilers, we keep talking about the Oilers all year round. And there's no shortage of things to discuss. Not much with the draft, but free agency, obviously, looming will be a big one for the Oilers. Tommy, get us out of here, buddy, and I will see you on Friday. Hey, next Tuesday, once again, May 23rd, 3 o'clock, Clairview Boston Pizza. Pop on by. We'll take some of your questions. We'll have some fun there as well.
Yeah, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. Let's play the algorithm game. Always a pleasure. We'll see you on Friday.